segment 2. Miroslav still with us because today at Ball Arena, the Nuggets worked out none other than Nikola Jovic. Not Jokic, but Jovic. There it is from Mega. Same as Jokic, the farm system of the Adriatic League, the sort of G League Ignite, if you will, of the Adriatic League. And he's a guy that's really intriguing. Harrison, do you want to kind of first give the rundown on who Jovic is?
Yes, Nikola Jovic measured in at 6'11" at the combine in shoes. Oh. He's a 6'11" forward. He's definitely more of a forward/guard than forward/big man. He's a perimeter-oriented guy, 19 years old, one of the youngest players in the draft, obviously from Serbia. He was actually born in England, though, which is a little interesting detail about Jovic. Like you said, played for the same club as Nikola Jokic coming up, and he also played water polo when he was younger. It's another little interesting detail.
It is an interesting detail, though, because one of the things I know in the scouting reports when I'm looking at him is that he has great hands. So water polo must be a great for hand-eye coordination. You're dealing with a slippery, wet ball. I think that there's something to it.
I think there's a lot to it. Some of Nikola Jovic's strengths. He's really more of an offensive player. He's completely an offensive player, I think, right now in this stage of his development. He's a 6'11" guy who can handle the ball, who can play in pick and roll, who can dribble the ball up the floor, who can create for himself and others. He's just got this really nice combination of size and skill and feel for the game that you don't really see in a lot of 6'11" guys. He's pretty smooth, I think, on offense. He's really capable of getting his shot from really wherever on the floor. He wasn't that efficient scoring this season for Mega, but I mean, you can definitely see his feel for the game and how he gets the spots and the shots that he can get. And you really like his scoring upside. And then his feel for the game, I feel is really high. I think he's got a good basketball IQ. Off the ball, he's a good cutter. He's got good instincts, screening, moving to open areas on the floor. He's just got a good sense of spatial awareness and stuff like that. And then playmaking as well. He's comfortable handling the ball at 6'11". He can operate in pick and rolls. He can score and pass out of it. So he's a really versatile offensive guy for being 19 years old and as young as he is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the comp that you see everybody use is Danilo Gallinari. I think it's a good comp. I don't think it's a perfect one.
He's more fluid than Gallinari. I don't really remember Gallinari as a rookie. I mean, definitely when Gallinari was in Denver, Jovic is way more fluid than Gallo was then. But I'd say overall, just more fluid, more flexible, more bendy than Gallinari was.
Yeah, Gallo has a weird stop-start game to him, and he kind of is falling, crashing into people. He draws a lot of fouls with it. I feel like Jovic is much more of, like you mentioned, just kind of a fluid. I mean, he moves like a guy that's probably 6'6", 6'7", has that kind of mobility to him. And seeing him today at Ball Arena, I'm glad I got to be there because that's one of the things you look at is just the body, how tall is he for real? And I would say he feels 6'11". He felt enormous. He looked like he was a really tall guy. The thing that stood out to me, this small detail, he was a really happy-go-lucky personality. And I don't know why that surprised me. It's just not what I was expecting for some reason, but he's one of the younger players in this draft. He just turned 19, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
June 3rd, I think.
Oh, yesterday, a couple days ago.
Okay.
So really, really recently. And it's funny because he seems like it. He seemed like a puppy. You know what I mean? There's some guys you see in workouts and they're there and they're almost putting on a face hey, I'm here because I'm this and that. He was very happy to be there. He's kind of joking, make a shot, miss a shot. Just everything about him was just very much up and peppy. And I don't know why that surprised me. And then it was great talking to him. The last little detail from today that I think is sort of pertinent. He has never spoken to Nikola Jokic, which is kind of an interesting way. You just assume these guys have crossed paths in some capacity. Apparently, I'd never talked to him, but does love him. Obviously, cited him as one of his favorite players, along with Luka Doncic, no surprise. And he also said Brandon Ingram was the random name that came. I said Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and then Brandon Ingram. And I just thought, oh, wow, that's a really interesting fourth.
That's actually funny because when I was watching his film and looking for a player comp, I actually thought a little bit of Brandon Ingram.
I could see it.
He's built more like him than the other two.
Yeah.
So maybe from a standpoint of like a guy that knows how to get to his spots and rise above, you know.
He's a lot thicker though than Brandon Ingram is. And this is one of the things, like when you talk about the height, him and Michael Porter kind of look the same height. He might even actually be, I think technically is like an inch taller if he's 6'11", Michael Porter 6'10". He looked like that. But Michael Porter has really, really thin legs, and I think Brandon Ingram does too. That's the thing is, I thought Jovic had a very skinny upper body where he very much looked like a 19-year-old. You could imagine he'll put on a little bit of muscle, but his lower body was a lot stockier. So take that for what it's worth. He had like more muscle in his legs than a Michael Porter. So that was it. Miroslav, what can you tell us about Jovic?
Well, what Harrison said, he really is a forward who plays more like a guard than comparing to the big. He really isn't a big man. He had that crazy 3-match stretch when he was last season, so the season a year ago, when he was playing for the Mega under-19 team, and he was averaging like 18, 11, and 11 because he is way more advanced comparing to his age group in Serbia for sure, and that is kind of comforting. I mean, if you think about his future, and when you look at his game today in Mega, in the seniors, in the playing against the grown ass man, he was actually a pretty good facilitator. He was recording about 3.6 assists in 27 minutes per game he was playing, which is quite a lot in Europe because they don't give away assists in Europe like they give them away in the NBA. Let's not kid ourselves about it. So you really need to earn your assist to get it in Europe.
Yeah.
So that's quite
handing out assists like milk skin.
Yeah, he's a pretty bad shooter if you look at his shooting splits, and I don't like him taking all of those step back threes because they look a bit awkward, and I don't think he will be able to get them off being that slow in the NBA. I don't think he will be able to clear himself like he did, playing against his age group in Europe or in the World Cup. Even though we've seen that wonderful game-winning three-pointer that Harrison shared today on Twitter, which was pretty impressive. I just don't like that kind of game, but I get it because that's modern basketball for you. So I'm impressed with his. I would say my best comfort for him would be a taller, a bit slower, and a much worse shooter, Bogdan Bogdanovic, because his playmaking kind of reminds me of Bogdan.
Right.
I mean, he's a much worse shooter comparing to Bogdan and of course to Gallo as well, but that can develop and we'll see how it looks like. Right now, it's a bit slow for my pleasure, but if he would be drafted by a team with such a good developing crew like Denver Nuggets have, I think he could have a steep learning curve and be really good very, very soon, like within a couple of years. This is why I don't think Denver Nuggets should take him, because I don't think they need another project. Even though I think he would be a really good backup to Michael Porter, as you mentioned, because he could be your instant offense off the bench.
Yeah, sub one Michael Porter out, bring on another.
Perfect. Defensively, perhaps. Yeah, I will say the shot. I'm with you on it, and that was every time when we get these workouts, the behind the scenes is they go through workouts. I heard today's was a lot of one-on-one. They brought in some athletic long guys, I'm sure, to kind of challenge him and see how he did. I heard that his workout in particular went really well. But the part you see is all the shooting, and watching him shoot. It's just not that he's a bad one, but he did not look like a guy that I was like, oh, that's a shooter. It's more of a guy who can shoot. And I know that his reputation was one that he almost plays more like a shooter. And so coming to the next level, does he call that a little bit? Probably. But at the same time, I think from what I've seen of my scout on him, he probably needs to be a really good shooter to make up for what will at least initially be his defensive shortcomings. That's kind of
yeah. He's got like a lot of creativity to his game. I feel like more so than you see in a lot of European guys. I feel like he's like one of the biggest European hoopers I can remember in a while. Just in terms of like how imaginative he is and like
put a quarter in the jar, Put a quarter in the jar.
And like randomness to his offensive game compared to a lot of Euros that have come out as of late.
Yeah.
How do we say Hooper in Serbian, Miroslav?
That would be good to know before the trip, for sure. Yeah.
I think it's basketash. I see Voya here in the chat. He might say something smarter than that, but I would say basketash. So basket, like in basketball and basketash. Yeah. So, but I don't know. There might be a better comp.
Is that like Zana Musa would be another European hooper? He's a little bit of a hooper, I would say.
Yeah,
well, I've heard, by the way, he's like an MVP, or he had like a great year.
That's a hell of a name to throw out. Zana
Musa. Well, I just remember when he came in. Don't you remember him comparing himself to Kobe and stuff?
I sure do.
He's like, I'm a mix of Kobe and Giannis.
I sure do. That poor guy needed a glass of water so bad, too.
I'll sound like a hater here, but Zanan Musa moved back to Europe. Mishko is his agent, like with Nikola, and he didn't move him to Barcelona. He didn't move him to Real Madrid. He moved him to a very small Spanish team that's a bottom feeder. Okay, thank you, Voya. And in Europe, you get to be the MVP if you have the most impressive numbers, regardless of your team's results. So you often get a guy that's like playing for a team. You have 18 teams in a league, and team number 15 has an MVP because it's just mathematically correct. So this is one of the reasons Musa is the MVP of, I believe, Spanish ACB league.
Okay. Well, there you go. Is there anything else? I mean, how do we feel? Jovic, I'm intrigued by him. In another era, like 3-4 years ago, he would have been a lot of fun. He would have been a guy I would have probably been pretty high on, like when we were taking the Wanchos of the world and the Beasleys and everything was like, let's see the upside, see the long term. But I'm kind of with, I think it was Miroslav who said, I don't know what his path to playing for the Nuggets is, because as much as I like his talent, he's almost certainly behind Zeke Naji. He's definitely behind Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon. And is he a guy that you feel like you could slot in right away to behind those? Probably not. So that means he's probably behind somebody else. And so you're looking at a long-term project guy, and it just might end up being a Malik Beasley type scenario where he's really good and really interesting, but you don't have the bandwidth to allow him to get to the point he should be. So that's why I don't know about him. And I'm probably more, I would be surprised if he was the pick.
I'm glad you brought that up. Win, do you think the Nuggets won the Beasley trade?
Wow.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Harrison. Don't answer my question.
Jeez, what?
That was a joke.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm with you, Adam. Like, would Nikola Jovic be really fun in Denver? Of course. Like, it'd be freaking awesome. But I feel like it'd be kind of an unserious pick, considering what this team needs right now and just where this team is. And we were talking with Miroslav before we started the show. Like, they can go out and address their defensive needs via trades or via free agency. They don't have to do that in the draft, but I mean, you would think they just maybe want to get a guy who's got a bunch of defensive upside and can give them something defensively at number 21 overall. And if you're thinking about prospects that fit what the Nuggets are looking for just on paper, Jovic would be the exact opposite of that. I mean, he's got some intriguing defensive stuff just because he's 6'11", and when you watch the film, he's got a couple nice weak side blocks, and but who knows about him defensively? He's kind of just on the opposite spectrum of what you think the Nuggets would be looking for at 21.
Right.